So with that, we welcome Gary Van Such to join us today. Gary is the Director of the Process Improvement for the Colorado Department of Transportation, also known as CDOT. As a member of the CDOT top executive team, Gary directs efforts to improve the organization's operations and to make government more effective, efficient, and customer-focused. He has over 40 years of business improvement and change leadership experience in the energy, financial services, and governmental services sectors. Michelle is the Process Improvement and Change Management Program Manager. Michelle has been devoted to Colorado State for nearly 15 years. In that time, she has dedicated herself to being the best servant leader possible. Michelle's expertise lies in strategy, program management, project management, change management, process improvement, facilitation, and working with people. Michelle believes that people are the government's #1 asset, and any improvements to the products and services we aim to improve would not happen without them. Stacy is an intern with Colorado Department of Transportation. She is a doctoral candidate for industry and organizational psychology at Kansas State University. Stacy is passionate about improving the workspace. Welcome.
And thank you for that kind introduction, Cherise. Appreciate that. Stacy, if you could bring up the slide deck, that'd be great. I do want to point out that we have a team presentation today. Teams are wonderful. We promote the whole idea that together we can accomplish more than we can separately. Michelle Malloy and I have been working with each other 10 years. Thanks, Michelle. I do want to point out that Stacy is 5 weeks away from being Dr. Stoffrigan. So congratulations, Stacy. We appreciate that. We're talking today about the intermingle of project management and change management, an organization-wide program approach that we have, and we'll occasionally have wonderful vistas just like you see here on our first slide in the background that Michelle and Stacy have. If you could go to the next slide, please, Stacy. What we're going to cover today, first of all, is a brief introduction to CDOT, and then we're going to talk about an opportunity for improvement that we saw. At CDOT, we're working to engage everybody every day in improving our business. And we want to make sure that everyone can be successful with each and every change that impacts them. We've been working that for at least 10 years. We think we have a solution to some of the issues that we've seen where we have so much change that we start getting change saturated. We call that solution concept of project, or C2P for short. And by the way, we're going to talk about the Colorado Department of Transportation in the shorthand. We're going to be calling that CDOT. That concept of project, or C2P effort, is that intermingle of the technology and the principles of project management with the technology and principles of change management, the people side of change. We're going to talk about where we are now, where we're going. We're hoping that some of this will be helpful to all of you there in the Evergreen State and all the other states that are on board today. Next. But before we talk about CDOT, I do want to thank Results Washington for hosting us, and congratulations on the 10th annual Washington State Lean Transformation Conference. We presented in the past. We presented in 2016 about improving lean through communities of practice and about change capacity within a large government organization, CDOT, and about driving success. We did that jointly with Amber Sander from the Washington State Department of Transportation. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Results Washington, and congratulations on 10 years of wonderful success. Next. At CDOT, we serve the Centennial State. You see our iconic signs, "Welcome to Colorful Colorado," that you see anytime that you come into Colorado on a major highway. You also see some of our wonderful peaks, very similar to what you have in Washington State. We have a wonderful state that we serve. And we know that many of you are from Washington State, but perhaps some other places too. So Alyssa, I was hoping that you could turn on the chat pane, and Stacy next. We're hoping that you could drop into the chat pane where you're from, what city, what state. We'd like to read out some of those. So Idaho, Washington, oh my gosh, Texas, a lot of Washington, Pennsylvania, that's wonderful. British Columbia, thanks for folks from across the border, New York, Oh my gosh, so many wonderful places, all in public service, just like we are in here in the Centennial State. So thank you, thank you, thank you for doing that. Stacy, next. And at CDOT, we do serve the Centennial State. We're 3,000 citizens of Colorado at over 200 different staff locations. You see a portion of the state of Colorado here, and it makes it look like we're not the Centennial State. It makes it look like we're the state with freckles. And we will embrace that today. Every place that you see a yellow dot, a freckle on the state of Colorado is someplace where there is a member of Team CDOT serving the public. If you look at Denver, where a lot of the dots are, there's some of those that say 501 people or 100 people, and certainly there's a concentration there, but you see folks across Colorado, sometimes 4 people, sometimes 6 people, and of course that makes sense. That's where our customers are. That's where we have the assets that serve our customers, and where we're also trying to make process improvement and change management happen across our state. Next. And why are we doing that? Because we have this wonderful, wonderful mission. We're working to provide the best multimodal transportation system for Colorado, the most effectively and safely moves people and goods and information. And yes, information. We have fiber optic cable along our highways that provides information to our motoring public that says, gosh, from here to there is going to take 5 minutes or perhaps 55 minutes because of traffic. We move people, we move goods, we move information in the effort to enhance the quality of life and environment here in Colorado. You see some facts here. I'm not going to read them all, but I think there's some fascinating things here. We have 35 major mountain passes. Most of those are getting snow today. All of those have CDOT people in plows today, moving snow off the roads. We have 22,000 lane miles of road, but we have 7 million lane miles of snow of plowed roads in 2020. That means we have people out all the time during the winter, just as I'm sure you do in Washington State and Idaho and many of the other places where all of you are participating from today. And thank you for your participation today. Next. And we are driven by values. We know that 2 organizations that are otherwise equivalent, if one is driven by values and the other one isn't, the one driven by values wins for themselves, wins for their customers. We have 6 wonderful values. They go by the mnemonic SPICER. SPICER is the first letter of the word safety, people, integrity, customer service, excellence and accountability, and respect. And our session today really hits upon customer service and excellence and accountability. Customer service, and we're trying to provide that highest level of customer satisfaction and experience. And excellence, we're committed to quality. We're working to continuously improve our products and services and practices. And what you have today with our concept of project initiative is our efforts to improve both of those. So thank you for joining us today. Stacy, next. I'm going to turn it over to Stacy to talk about the opportunity for improvement that we saw, and then some of the stuff that we have going on from there. So Stacy, please take it away.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm going to talk about our opportunity for improvement. So we'll go, there we go. So starting out with our baseline status. At CDOT, we started out not knowing exactly how many business improvement projects were planned or taking place. And so this created a lot of issues. As you can imagine, we were facing issues like unknown change saturation in our employees, redundant efforts were taking place. There was a lack of information which impacted business decisions, and a lack of transparency in general around what was going on or what was planned to go on. And also poor project timing. So projects were overlapping in a way that isn't ideal. So that's where we started out, where we realized this needs to change. We need to address this. So with that, then if we can open up the chat pane. Does your organization face similar issues? Do you also not know how many changes are happening at your organization? Is this creating issues like redundant efforts or unknown change saturation like we were facing? And if Gary or Michelle could monitor that.
I'm seeing, yep, I'm seeing you betcha. I'm seeing all of the above. I have not seen anything that doesn't say something like yes.
Yeah, so this is a real issue that many organizations are facing, not just CDOT. So that brings us then to our project purpose. And so we set out to establish a system for managing organizational business improvement projects. And we set out to do this because we want to be good stewards. And in order to do that, we have to have clear information on which to base business decisions and to provide an optimal environment for projects. Also, to those that devote their time and funds to those projects, and to those people that are impacted by those projects, that they can be successful with that change and with that project. So that's what we set out to establish with C2P. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Michelle to talk to you about our solution.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Next, please. Before we jump into C2P, I first want to kind of talk about different projects at CDOT. And if we equated CDOT to perhaps a refrigerator manufacturing company, you know, our design and construction projects that we do are very similar to a manufacturing line. If you had a refrigerator and you had all the pieces to that refrigerator and you started building that refrigerator, and of course at the end of the line you wanted to get this nice new sparkly awesome refrigerator, the same kind of thing happens with our design and construction projects. So there's a lot of similar, in fact, exactly the same steps you have to do for every design project for a bridge, per se, or for an overlay, or for, you know, any type of construction project. So those types of projects are the things that directly impact and improve our infrastructure in the state of Colorado. So and that's one type of project. We've been doing those for over 100 years at CDOT. It's very much set in stone in how they're done. But if you stop and think about it, we also have the other type of project at CDOT, and that's our business improvement projects. Those projects could be anything from, you know, a formal rapid improvement event for a week for a process improvement effort. It could be restructuring the organization. It could be IT improvements. It could be anything that impacts people. And those projects, while they're not directly impacting the infrastructure, they're improving the business that creates those projects for the infrastructure. And so I just really wanted to kind of, really define the different types of projects at CDOT. Next, please. And what is a business improvement project? I'm sure you guys out there have heard hundreds of different definitions around, what is a project? And how we define it at CDOT is, number one, it impacts how people work. We like to have that in our definition. It's temporary in nature, it has that clear start and end date. It's not daily, weekly, or monthly standard work. So it has to be beyond that standard cadence of work. It achieves business objectives, can be strategic or operational. And then some measurements here. Time to completion is greater to time to vet and charter that. And the amount of resources should be greater than 160 resource hours, or around $5,000. And so that's how we define, what changes or improvements bubble up to what we consider a business improvement project. Next, please. And then when you stop and think about, where do all of our business improvement projects originate in the organization? A quick answer to that is everywhere. They're very organic. They spring up kind of like weeds in a garden or flowers in a flower bed. And they tend to pop up in a lot of different areas. But when you really start to dive in and think about it, most changes or big, cross-functional business improvements typically originate at headquarters. And so these come out of divisions at headquarters. They'll come out of committees or, different councils that we have, like we have the Quality Improvement Council at CDOT that creates projects every year on an annual cycle. Our performance plan at CDOT creates business improvement projects. So a lot of those really originate at headquarters and then consequently impact the people in the regions. And so, and I'm not saying that they can't happen, it can't come out of the regions, and they do, but most of the time it's the opposite way. So I'm sure your organizations are pretty much the same, and they just kind of spring out of nowhere, it seems sometimes. Next, Stacy. So some current state, details about where we are at right now, or, what we're trying to to really address with the whole concept to project program. I counted this morning and we have 216 business improvement projects on our list right now. And many of those really struggle, I think, to deliver their intended outcomes, what they really set out to do. Now that doesn't mean that all of them fail, but they really struggle to get there. They might not produce the outcomes that we desire, and some of them do fail. And there's a wide variety of reasons that this happens. It could be, lack of sponsorship. It could be, timing of that project. It could be, it was a redundant effort. We found it happening in a different area. There are many different reasons why projects struggle. One of those we've noticed, and it definitely has been holding true to this day, is a lot of them aren't chartered. So if we don't have a good solid foundation for our business improvement projects for them to start out on, we're kind of setting them up to fail. So we really want to look into, making sure that all of our business improvement projects are chartered and have that good, baseline information and foundation for success. Next. Also, we don't currently have a standard vetting process to kind of go through projects as they come in to make sure that these are things that we want to do as an organization. So that is a struggle in itself, and we hope to be addressing that soon, I hope. A lot of times too, like on our design and design and construction projects, those are all formally funded, of course. And business improvement projects are not like that. We don't have a system in place to formally fund them. So consequently, it's really unknown how much time and money are we actually spending on these business improvement projects. And that just builds upon, if we don't know how much we're spending or how much time and resources we're applying, we can't really manage our business improvement projects across the organization in the many different portfolios. Each division I would consider having its own portfolio of business improvement projects. And there's really no way to manage those across the organization at this time, which really consequently, again, it doesn't allow us to manage the impacts of changes. I know, like right now, if I take my list of 216 business improvement projects and I filter that by, who is this impacting column, and I filter out engineering, I know I'm going to pull up at least 45 business improvement projects that have possible impacts to people who work in engineering. And so if we can't manage the changes or the impacts, that can result to in change saturation levels, too much change happening at the wrong time of the year. If you're in the middle of construction season, you don't want to have a bunch of changes to your staff in engineering. So we lack that ability right now. Next. So with all of those issues, we started creating what we created C2P. The initial goals, and these are just part of them, and we'll talk about the bigger picture in just a second, but the initial goals of C2P is, one, we wanted to help our business improvement project leaders, the people that manage these business improvement projects, and help them with not only, what is the process in delivering a business improvement project, but here are some tools and resources and mentorship and help and training and all of these different things. And so we've done that. We wanted to address that issue because, our project leaders, we have a wide variety of skill sets there. We have people who I deem accidental project managers, and they may have never managed a project before, all the way to expert level project managers. And so, just being able to get out there and make sure that they have all the resources and things that they need to be successful. The other thing that we really wanted to do is, create that transparency into what business improvement projects or changes are out there for everyone at CDOT, so that people in engineering can look at a list and say, oh, wow, these are the changes that are coming my way and I need to get prepared. Or maybe they look at the list and they say, oh, I have questions about this. I know who to contact now. So just creating that transparency all across CDOT of all the different business improvement projects or changes that are happening internally right now, it was one of our main goals. And of course, our mantra, and I think you've heard Gary say it at the very beginning, we want to help everyone who is impacted by change be successful with that change. And with 216 internal business projects right now, that is a lot of change. So thank you. Next slide, please, Stacy. So the bigger picture around C2P, it's much bigger than our initial goals. We actually started C2P pre-pandemic, pre-COVID. We had worked on it for about 3 or 4 months before COVID really struck, and we all, went virtual and all started working from home, and that was a big change in itself. And with all, everything that we've talked about today, all the issues that we had, we looked to Sally Chafee. She's our primary sponsor and our chief of staff at CDOT. And she too was, in support of our ideas for concept to project. And we pulled together a larger sponsor coalition. And we did a visioning session. And this is the vision that that sponsor coalition came up with. They wanted to envision a culture of continuous improvement that's supported by a fully integrated program that promoted CDOT's values of customer service and excellence. We really do rely on our values at CDOT, and they've been around for many, many years. So we try to include them in everything we do. But specifically, they wanted to, by 2025, create standardized processes and the use of project management and change management frameworks. And using those, they would create ingrained pathways for new business improvement projects. So once you start a project, you would know the path it would go on. A simple interface to communicate project status, and we are currently working on that right now. A library of tools and resources supported by role-based training, and a multi-year strategic plan that considers CDOT's resources. So that's the overall vision. We have a ways to go, but we have started out on that path. Next slide, Stacy. Oh, and this is foundational to our overall program as well. This is a depiction directly from ProSci, and ProSci is a change management company out of Fort Collins, Colorado, and Gary's going to mention them in a little bit. But this is one thing we really wholeheartedly believe in, and it's foundational to the C2P program. Is we want to make sure that all of our projects, because one of our criteria is that if your project impacts people, right, it's part of the C2P world. And because of that, we want to integrate that project management process with the change management process. And it should flow together, bringing change management onto a project improvement or a business improvement project early on is really, really beneficial. You could see this, change management getting added on at the very end, at implementation. I've seen that in the past, but we really, really want to make sure that we're starting each and every project with the considerations of change management. Right from the beginning, they're initiating a project, then they're going to assess those impacts and assess the complexity of that change. And so, just really falling in line with each one of those frameworks and methodologies. So that is foundational to what we're doing at C2P. Next, please. So really quickly, I want to have you guys, if you can turn on chat. One, does your organization integrate change management with project management? So yes or no. And two, if you do, when do you usually see that happen? Do you see it happening at the beginning of the project, the middle of the project, or right before go live? So I'm seeing a lot of yeses. That's awesome. Ooh, I saw a beginning. Yay. And I see some underway now. Yes, beginning. Unknown. Yes, middle. Beginning and middle. Yeah, yes, before go live. I've been on some of those projects myself. Yes, and all three. So just depending on the project and where it's at in its life cycle. Way too late usually, and unfortunately. I agree. Like you can add change management anywhere in that cycle, and it always helps, but you definitely get more bang for your buck when you add it in at the beginning. So that's awesome. Very cool. Thank you for providing that feedback. Next, please. All right. So to discuss a little bit of how we've started and gotten C2P off the ground, I'm going to hand it back over to Stacy.
So as Michelle said, now I'm going to talk about how we got C2P to where it's at now. So getting started, we recruited CDOTers from various areas to help build the C2P program. And this was great because one, we got their input and their opinions on what would work and what would resonate best, as well as really building that support from various areas of CDOT. Then we worked to build out sub-teams with our whole C2P team to tackle specific areas of the project. And throughout our whole process, our focus has been to add value to all the roles in the organization with C2P. Starting there, we wanted to make sure that we were providing value with C2P. And so we identified 4 customers that we can provide value to with C2P. And our first customer that we identified is employees. And the value that they will get from C2P is by accessing the C2P Hub's project list so that they're aware of the projects that are underway and those that are planned for the future. Additionally, they have access on the Hub to training and tools that will help them to better engage in the changes that they're facing to be successful with those changes. It's really something that we drive home as we want all of our employees and CDOTers to be successful with their changes. Also, employees will be empowered to innovate and improve their work by easily finding those tools and links to resources on the Hub. Then we identified supervisors as a customer that will receive value from C2P. And so they'll have more awareness about the changes that will impact them and their teams. They'll also be better able to and prepared to adjust to and adapt to the many changes that are created by CDOT's business improvement projects and support their staff through those changes. As Michelle said, there's 216 going on. And so for supervisors to have a clear picture of how their staff will be impacted is important and provides them with a good amount of value. Next is the business improvement project leaders and change managers. And C2P provides them value through accessing tools, resources, development and training, consultation services, mentorship and networking opportunities. And all of this is available on our one-stop hub where they can get these services or these resources from. And then finally, leadership. They'll find value in C2P by the transparency that's created by the C2P Hub's project list. This is a list of everything, the 216 projects that are going on at CDOT. Also, there's strategic planning opportunities by understanding what business improvements are being done and what are planned by all of CDOT's division. And finally, change impact planning. They'll have value in being easier to see the insights that are derived from the project list and managing that change impact, planning that out better so that, as Michelle said, during construction season, maybe we aren't having so much change going on for those divisions. How are we going to build that value? To do that, we broke C2P into 5 separate sub-teams to each tackle a specific area. So we'll dive into that. Our first is the C2P Hub team, and this is our internal website. And you can see a picture of the landing page there on the screen. And the purpose of this team was to create a one-stop shop for all roles at CDOT. So we really wanted to make it an accessible place where you could come and all of your resources or information would be easy to access. So the C2P Hub's team purpose was to increase transparency for all through that project dashboard. So all of the projects will be put onto a dashboard where you can see what's impacting you, what status the project is in, who's the project leader in case you want to reach out to them. It also increases business improvement project and change management competencies, as well as role-based competencies and how to change by providing those tools, resources, and trainings, all of that in that one-stop shop type of website. And finally, it increases connections between committees, teams, offices, by having all of that information of this project might be impacting my project and how can we best coordinate. All of that information and contact is on the C2P Hub. Our next team is the intake process team, and the purpose of this team was to develop the initial inventory or the project list, which, as you heard Michelle say, has 216 projects as of this morning. This team also developed an approach then of how can we keep this inventory current as projects move throughout their life cycle. They developed a project process checklist for the Office of Process Improvement to use to review and route projects. And they connect with partners in the organization to ensure that connecting processes are considered. So on this screen, we have a little bit of a process of how this flows. So initially, the project leader enters their information into our intake form, which is a Google intake form. Then that intake form information gets flooded into a Google sheet. And then the data from the Google sheet floods into the dashboard. And the dashboard is what's displayed on our hub for all of CDOTers to see and to be able to access. Our next sub-theme is training and development. And their purpose was to create an easily accessible and understandable framework that will allow project and change managers to develop their skills and deliver successful business improvement projects. This team identified any gaps that we had in our existing training, and they're currently working on building out training to fill those gaps. And all of this, again, will be accessible through our hub, and the resources are there for our CDOT employees to access. Then we have the tools team, and this team, the purpose was to provide a simple and easy to use tools for project and change management. And so we have these actually on our hub broken down into two categories of highly recommended and as needed, because when you go to the tools section, you might be overwhelmed if you're not used to using change management or project management. And so we really wanted to guide change managers and project managers through this process by highlighting what we really recommend and what's as needed, depending on what their project is about and covers. This team also provides the process and standardization information for the project lifecycle, such as lean, waterfall, agile, and hybrid methods. And the purpose also is to increase the use of project and change management on CDOT's business improvement projects. So we want to get more projects using the charter. We want to get them involved and engaged in project management and change management best practices. And then finally, we have our change management team. And this team was established so that CDOT will realize the intended benefits of the C2P program. This team has worked on developing change management plans for each iterative release as we move through future states. So think back to that image, the ProSci image Michelle had on the screen earlier. We've been trying to work through change management as this project started. So we've done things like creating communication plans, resistance mitigation, what's in it for me, sponsor coaching, and so on to really manage the change within C2P, because C2P is managing the change around CDOT as a whole. So it's a pretty cool team to be a part of. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Michelle to share where we're at now.
Thank you very much, Stacy. So where are we now? Next slide. So as Stacy was saying, we broke our C2P team into 5 different teams, and we've launched the C2P Hub, that one-stop shop. It has all of those things on there, the tools, resources, and we have a partner page so that everybody feels included in what we're doing. And it's true, there's so many different committees and groups and teams all throughout CDOT, and we all need to connect and partner with each other to be successful in doing what we're doing for C2P. So we have a page for customer success stories, which we love success stories. We feel like, success stories breeds more success. So we try to always have those. We have an FAQ page on there. And I'm going to skip down to the training and development. That is nearly complete. We're going to be adding a nice new page to the C2P Hub that outlines the frameworks that Stacy talked about, so people know what they should be doing to develop themselves in their role of project manager or change manager. And currently the C2P team is working on collecting data on the 216 projects that we've identified. And so that's what's happening right now. And as Stacy talked about, it will get, that data as it comes in is getting put into a dashboard, and that dashboard will be on the C2P site as well. We've also integrated with Pitch and QIC. Pitch stands for Providing information technology projects help. Pitch has been around CDOT for a long time. We always say pitch and we forget what it stands for, all these acronyms. QIC is our Quality Improvement Council. So those types of groups at CDOT or committees at CDOT do create projects. And so we've integrated with them. We've integrated our processes. And there's more groups like that that we need to integrate with. So our different partners, but that's where we are right now. And the next slide. And where are we going next? So where are we going next? We are hopeful as a group, our CTP team, that with the knowledge and the transparency around saying, oh, wow, we have these 216 projects. And by the way, that list continues to grow. I'm sure we're probably going to unearth more projects as we collect data. So that big list of all these projects, I think will spur natural organic communication with our sponsor coalition, between the CTP team and the sponsor coalition, about, do we need a vetting process? And I think the answer is yes. Do we need resources? Do we need standard portfolio management best practices happening at CDOT? What are our next steps as far as growing and maturing the C2P program and helping our employees not be impacted by too much change at once? So those are the types of questions I think that we'll be talking about come about January, I'm guessing. And so having those crucial conversations so that we can see where our path leads next is important. We are also bringing back CDOT's Change Agent Network. CDOT's original Change Agent Network went from about 2012, maybe 2011, 2012 to 2018. It was a very successful change agent network. By the time we sunsetted it, we had 105 change agents at CDOT. And they were assigned to approximately 5 managers or supervisors at CDOT. And so really, yes, the change agent's role was to communicate about changes down to their assigned managers and supervisors, but it was also to bring that information back up to the project team. So we would create that two-way flow of information in the organization. And they were there as the coach for their assigned supervisors. So they were there to help their supervisors in their roles in times of change. So, remind them to communicate, help them liaison, be an advocate, manage resistance, and coach their staff. And so they were there as a, in-person direct coach to help them manage change for them and their staff. So we are going to bring back a form of a change agent network very soon. In fact, we just chartered that effort. And so it's going to be getting off the ground very, very soon. And our overall, we love to measure. I always, if you measure, you make progress for sure. And so we want to increase our maturity to a 3.5 on a scale of 1 to 5 by 2023. And we've always measured our programs, through in the office process improvement, of course. And I think this is a tremendous goal, and I'm excited to do it. And next slide, please. So really quickly, I want to thank the dream team that makes this all possible. Like Stacy said earlier, we pulled people from across the agency to help build the C2P program, and they came from many of these areas. Next slide. And these are the people. And so, a really big shout out to my sponsor coalition. Of course, without good sponsorship, nothing's going to happen. And so I've had excellent sponsorship on this program and creating this overall program, and they've been wonderful. And of course, the C2P project team, they have been go-getters. They continue to work hard. And this has kind of been an on again, off again attempt due to COVID. But they've all hung in there. They've all, they're very passionate about what they're doing, and I'm very, very much appreciative. And with that, big thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Gary.
And thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Stacy. We've just talked about the intermingle of project management with the change management. As you noticed, we didn't specifically say, oh, this is a change management principle or tool, or this is a project management principle or tool. We are working to combine those together. And we're hopeful that it's helpful to you. I've been answering some questions in the chat pane, and we'll pick up questions in a moment. But for a moment, I do want to unmingle things And I do want to point out that during the conference here, you have a chance to hear from somebody on Thursday that we've learned a lot from. And that's our friends at ProSci, and specifically Tim Creasy, who's the Chief Innovation Officer at ProSci. He has what looks like to be a wonderful session on Thursday. We've learned a lot from him on change management and frankly on integration. I believe he'll include some of that in his presentation about the integration of change management and project management. There are wonderful sessions throughout the conference, the remaining parts of the conference, and this one in particular is related to what we've been talking about today, and I highly encourage you to participate in that. Stacy, next. We are open for questions. We have tried to provide some of the answers in the chat pane, and apologies. I used to be able to type 60 words a minute pretty error-free. That is not true anymore. There are plenty of errors in my spelling. Please forgive me on that. But we do have some time for some questions. There are a few that are coming in that I haven't been able to type some answers to, and if my answers to some of the others haven't been complete, feel free to put those back in the chat pane. One of those was from Sherry Keller. Can you talk a little bit more about the office process improvement and its role in C2P? Halfway through a written response, Sherry, briefly, I lead the office process improvement. We're part of the Chief of Staff's organization. Michelle Malloy leads our C2P team. We have a sponsor coalition also. It's super important. Any kind of change, particularly a large one like this, has a good set of sponsors sponsoring that. That sponsor coalition is a number of key executives through the organization led by our Chief of Staff, Sally Chafee. So we are part and parcel of leading the design on this, and that's evolving into a project and change management office at CDOT. Now, we already have a project management group for our transportation projects, just like Washington State DOT does. Separate from that, this is actually the projects we've been talking about here today, those internal change projects where we want everybody to be successful with each and every change that impacts them. So Sherry, hopeful that that is helpful to you. There's Michelle and Stacy, please feel free to jump in. There's several other questions in the pane that have been unanswered, and a few that we have answered that perhaps you've got additional thoughts about. And Doug, thank you for your thanks there. Appreciate that. We will definitely post a link to the session. We'll try to put that in with the materials here in a moment. Here's one from Carrie and Michelle. Perhaps you want to take this one. What guide and Stacy, what guidance do you provide on benefit measurement on the delivery of projects to that original intent of the project? Intent of the project, measurement of the benefit of that.
Sure, I'll take that one. So when we charter our efforts, we always want to make sure that we have good metrics. And we do lead and lag measures on our charters. So, you know, we put our lag or what our outcomes are we want, what are our outcomes that we want out of that project. And then we put in lead measures to help people kind of measure their baby steps that, yeah, I'm going to reach my lag measure. So we do use lead and lag, which is part of the 4DX, 4 Disciplines of Execution. I'm not sure if you've read the book, but it does go into lead and lag measures extensively in that book. So we definitely want to, you know, make sure we are measuring. Like I said, what gets measured gets done. So I think I've answered that one. Do you have anything to add to that, Gary?
I think that's great. You know, it's important to be as specific as you can, even if it's sometimes just guesswork. 4DX is a great way to look at that. And there's similar things out there. Be specific and make sure that you come back pretty often. You know, sometimes you're guessing up front, and that's okay. Make sure that you come back to that often. We do have a few more here. This is an interesting one, and it probably requires a bit more explanation. Stacy Gillette is saying, how many FTEs are on the C2P team? How are the positions funded? So again, the C2P team is an improvement team itself, and it's evolving into a full-blown program, a project and change management program. Michelle or Stacy, perhaps you want to take that one.
So how many FTEs? So FTEs, there's me, and then we have the team of interns, which I could not do even 10% of the stuff I do without our team of interns on the OPI staff. Currently, right now, we have 5 interns, and they all work very, very, very hard on everything that we do. And Gary and I've had an internship program in the Office of Process Improvement now since 2012 or 13. And was it 2012, did you say, Gary? I think it's
2012.
Yeah, and I think we have hired, our next intern we hire will be our 72nd, 73rd? 72nd intern. And so when I say I can't live without interns, I truly mean it. They've helped in so many ways over the years, and they keep me young, by the way. So we do have those people working on the C2P effort. And then the members of the C2P team from across the organization, this is not their day job. They are engineers, they are in maintenance, they are in our Office of Innovative Mobility, they are from all over the organization, and they work extra, on our C2P effort. And do you have anything to add to that, Gary or Stacy?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd like to answer the one from Lisa. What do you do to celebrate the successes or acknowledge the staff who put in the effort? I love celebrations. And, one of the things I think that I try to make our team extremely fun. We have a lot of, questions that we do. We just visit sometimes. We have, we build that relationship between us to where, it's not just about C2P. And so just, making sure that you have that connection with your team members is really important. We do have parties, like after we went live with the website, we came together for a celebration for about 10 or 15 minutes. And that was a nice little thing. And I also like to recognize them formally at CDOT. We have a system that we can give badges out that goes directly into their performance plan. And so, I will give badges out as we do the next milestone or as we, achieve something, so that is definitely there for their performance review time. And just recognizing them in more ways too, like today, having their names out there today as we talk about it, having their names in all the articles that we write, things like that. We couldn't do it alone, that's for sure. So
it's important to support the home team, and we try to do that. There are a lot of questions. Apologies, we may not have a chance to get to all of them. It says that Oregon DOT, we utilize interns too. Great. Thank you, Oregon DOT. Thank you, Diana. Appreciate that. How do you solicit for other areas of the agency or get involved with your effort? And actually, that's kind of related to some of the answers that I've put in the chat pane already. Folks were interested about how we, whether anybody can actually suggest something to work on. And the answer is yes. At CDOT, we actually are working to get everybody engaged and improve the business. For those improvements that people make in their own part of the business, we have something called the I Fixed It channel. We want to know about it because very often something that gets fixed on one maintenance patrol, for instance, applicable across the organization. So we want to find out about that to help celebrate. But there's also an I Suggest channel, or it's evolving into I have a concept. I have a notion that can make things better. And there's a channel there for putting information in. Again, we're 3,000 people scattered at 200 different staff locations across 104,000 square miles of Colorado. So we can't just have a box where people drop stuff. But thankfully, our technology allows us to do that. Michelle and Stacy covered some of that. Those suggested, there's no guarantee those suggestions will turn into projects. But some of those are pointing out key problems, key efforts that need to be worked on. So absolutely, people can actually, we let people know that there's that capability. So there's that soliciting, Diana, but there's also that capability for people to, at 12 midnight to go into their website and put that thought in there. It gets captured, we can vet it and do all the wonderful things with all the tools that the C2P project team is working on. And boy, Michelle and Stacy, help me pick another question. Apologies, we don't have time for all of this. As you imagine, we get pretty excited and we would love to talk about this all day. Are you able to share the I Fixed It site and format? Oh, absolutely. We need to, we can, that's on our codot.gov website. It's actually in our Innovation and Improvement Hub, and we ought to put that into the chat pane or somehow capture that.
I'm getting it.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Michelle. And capture that in the notes from the session here. I know we're running right at the top of the hour. We promised everybody that we would stay within our, and Michelle put that in the chat pane. Thanks, Michelle. We promised that we would stay within our time limit. So Stacy, I think we've got one more slide. Why don't you go ahead to that? We would love to continue the conversation. Again, I'm Gary Van Such, the most fortunate person on the planet. You already know why, because I have a wonderful team that you've heard from today. That's Michelle Malloy, our Senior Program Manager, Stacy, soon to be Dr. Stoffergan, and you see our contact information there. By the way, that contact information is on our CDOT Innovation Improvement Hub. Also, we would love to continue the conversation. And Stacy, one more. And thank you. Thank you, Results Washington, for inviting us back. Congratulations again on the 10th Washington State Lean Transformation Conference. We're hopeful we'll come back for the 11th, the 12th, the 20th. We wish you well. I'm going to turn it back over to Charisse. You may have a few comments for the folks that are online with us.
Thank you, Gary, Michelle, and Stacy, for a wonderful session.
Thank you.
I'm certain that people here attending this today have thoroughly enjoyed this and have definitely taken away some things. So thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today. There's a lot more of the conference to come. So visit our website to watch sessions maybe that you missed, download information from your presenters, or maybe sign up for additional sessions. So in a moment, a survey will pop up. Please take the time to provide your feedback on how things went for you today. And we appreciate that real-time feedback. Thank you for attending today's session and have a wonderful day.